clinical, they've been threatening, they've been aggressive, they've been really, really good. It's the best I've seen G2 consistently in, I think, maybe the last year. You know, I think the fans have got the most to be excited about at the minute.
Here we go, the Thermite ban to start things off. I imagine a second hard breach to follow straight after, and they'll go for the third one, which will be the Hibana at round 4, or the end of round 3, sorry. Force teams into using a Maverick and make it very, very uncomfortable being anywhere near a wall that you need to get opened up. And of course, we'll invite along a lot of hard breach gadgets, for example. On the other side for Matcho, they're sort of playing to the same sort of thing here with the Kite and the Bandit being taken away at the same time. Both teams sort of playing that merry dance, mainly focused on breach for the most part.
I think map control is going to be a key one between these two. Yeah, G2 are going to look, I think, to use the majority of the map wherever they can here on Native, and we know that it's a very, very big map. So apart from that top floor, we do tend to see a lot of roaming, we tend to see a lot of presence all over the place. G2 on the defense first, so I think they're going to try to use that as much as they can to their advantage. But they start us up on the top floor, looking sort of recent history, the last 20 times Nighthaven's been played, 51% win rate for the defenders up on top floor, so it's actually pretty even really overall. Sorry, 57% up on the top floor, 51% for the map as a whole. So for a side that I'm not always too keen on, don't keep trying the Pasha Hollow. For a side I'm not always too keen on because it kind of restricts your ability to use too much of the map. It does favour the defenders.
I was so confused for a second, and I thought you were talking about the Hollow, and I was just like, why does that restrict your ability to control the map?
Top floor.
What are you on about? But now I guess after we've seen Pasha absolutely slay people on red stairs with it earlier, Doki fancies channeling a little bit that energy, and don't blame him, as we said before. Pasha is the best player in the competition right now, highest DPS, fantastic entry rate, brilliant KD, like almost a 2-to-1 KD, I believe he's currently finding himself at. So no surprise, Doki's trying to get a bit inspired by him. Here we go for this first round, though. At least as things kick off, a lot of eyes will be on Lolo on the Monty. That's spearhead for the team, and for now, they're making use of that double hard breach whilst they can, because in a few rounds' time, that Hibana is gone.
Yeah, good use of the Rotero drone as well, just using it to open up that soft surface. Sometimes an overlooked function of the Rotero drones. Of course, we focus on them taking out the utility, but can also be used to create vertical angles, create breaches in soft walls. Can be really versatile when you think about it. So G2 not really dislodged from anywhere. Loira is in a key position at the minute. We see the Azami on catwalks so often. He has a little look. He was very lucky there. I tell you what, they've dealt with him really easily, though. A lot of attention taken on the door, and Teb just walks in behind and gets that kill.
Loira's been feasting this stage, to be fair, and I think he imagined himself having another shot at the player trying to push down towards door, but of course didn't respect the control push coming in behind him. Puts him down one more number. Stomping gets his first kill of the game, and G2's first, actually. Dora to fall here, make it a 4 versus 4. It is only the Maverick that's gone down, so not the end of the world, but it's still pressure abated as one more appears at that door. Now Aki's starting to have a bit of a face down, but look who's here with him, Tim. It's the shield as well. I think Alamar's going to realise that. Ali up and over. Almost gets rid of Aki there, who could have been in hot water if he was any closer to that doorway.
Yeah, a little bit too soon with the Nitro, and they're going to use one of those Rotero drones again to open access from top aqua stairs for the Monte. Ghost managing to get a second in the round. Doki takes down Teb, 2 versus 3. It's up to Stomping, and Doki Stomping manages to find 1. And that brings us back to level pegging. It's Doki. We know that they're a hell of a duo. Doki manages
shield.
Second, but Lolo takes him out.
Really.
This is going to be a bit of a battle, a bit of a ring around the roses here. Doki doesn't have his shield to use. It's going to be whoever can find these first shots. The pistol comes out. Damage is done. Doki tries to swing around. Can't find the head of the Monty. Can't stay alive for long enough. Lolo finds the final kill in a dance of death.
Oh, unfortunate there for Doki. You think in that situation he'd be more than able to walk away as the winner, but unfortunately, not to be the case. Lolo showing a bit of mastery of his own. An interesting first round to get things off. I think both teams really had a swing of things at times. But Matcho ultimately being the ones that come away with the first round on the board. Is it going to be one of those games, Tim, as we spoke about a few times and definitely joked about, but I feel like we can't really make the jokes anymore. It's been that day of upsets. There is every chance here that Matcho take the win against G2, and it's not exactly outside the realms of doubt either.
100%. This is anybody's. MACKO coming in with a decent first attack. There was a little flurry of kills in the middle of the round from G2 that kind of got them back into it, but you always felt that MACKO were pretty much in control of that. Look at the areas, the key areas that they took. Garage Catwalk, no problem at all. Stepped up and killed Loira, pushed him from both sides, took that with ease. Top Aqua, they moved in from there again very easily, just getting that wall open with the Rotero, letting the Monty walk on in. The Nitro from Alamai landed short, wasn't able to do any damage. They just were very much in control of a lot of those key zones, and it was good stuff from MACKO. So they're going to move on now to the second round. G2 going to take us down to the basement.
Yeah, force MACKO through the map, I think, is the important part here. I say through the map, they may well just go straight down and towards opening the external walls if they wanted to, but I'd expect for the most part, given we have got the outlines of a few G2 players scattered around the map, you can see Loira, for example, on the second floor, 3 of them hovering around the first floor for now. It's going to be a full map clear for MACKO. They're going to have to work the way through. They can't exactly rush in towards site this way, and so they'll have that little dance of death that you have with the roamers in terms of how much time they want to commit out around the map versus how much they want to find themselves back on site and comfortable. We'll see how long G2 can hold on for.
Interestingly, the basement is the one site on Nighthaven that's actually attacker leaning. In the last 74 rounds we've seen played on tank and assembly specifically, 56.8% win rate for the attackers, so a little bit of a risk for G2 here. They've lost that first round on the top floor. They now go into a site which statistically is tougher for the defenders to hold on to. They could well find themselves 2-0 down here.
It'll make life interesting for sure. We'll see, of course, what builds up to it. For now, no one has gone down inside the opening 75 seconds, so G2 not looking to get ropes into these engagements. I mean, for the most part, MACKO just stayed away from that side of the map. They've not bothered with a heavy push in towards Garage, for example, where a couple of players have been hanging out. Instead, looking a lot more in towards the site itself and keeping their control side narrow. Got to be careful now they're inside of storage, because you do want the vertical control, and that is where these players on G2 could look to be a little bit troublesome. Loira especially is the one on keeping a close eye on, because he's now working his way down around those stairs inside the warehouse. He gets into a good spot. He could be a real party spoiler.
Alamai just missing the shots onto the Vulcan canister. They're always tough at a tight angle like that. I think he'd just get it, actually, as he popped back in. I thought he'd missed that one. So that just slows down the push a little bit. They do deal with the mirror window, but it just gives Alamai a little bit of breathing space. Saying that, he does take some damage along the way. Finds himself now down at half health. Needs to be careful with his challenge into EXO there. There's going to be even more pressure coming into this area very, very soon. And MACKO feeling like it's go time. 45 seconds left to go. They drop in and start looking for that first kill to get things rolling, but it's going to be Doke. Who else to pick up Akwi and get things underway for G2?
Thought he'd find someone on the belly, but no, got baited in. The train back the other way. The nade finds Alamar of all things there. Sort of stuck between a rock and, well, an explosive. Going to go down either way. Back into a 4v4, as we saw in the last round. Blaz gets one more back. Last 20 seconds here. MACKO have really got to pick things up, and I don't think, Tim, they're going to have enough time, because I mentioned about these players that have been out and about around the map. They're still out there. Lolo's all alone. Will find one more for himself. Gets this up to third in the game, but he's got to bring down 3, and I don't think with 5 seconds left him will find any of that. Loira with the close, and now we're at 1 apiece. Both teams have arrived here on Labs. Yeah,
big round from Loira. I think it was 3 in the round that he managed to get himself. A little bit quiet in the first round from him. Was taken out of Garage Catwalk pretty easily, but then doubles down, comes back strong, and finds himself a big part of G2 winning the round. So 1-1, and honestly, pretty much what I expected so far. I had a feeling that this was going to be a close matchup between these two, and that's exactly how it starts out.
Again, the rounds have been back and forth, I guess, across both, really. We've seen both kills getting those early trades, and then it's when it starts transforming into the flurry of kills towards round end that sees it going one way or the other. Not quite stable enough yet for either team to say that they're in the game, I think. We've seen them both get that one on the board. Let's see what happens now we go back up towards this top floor. Now, a reminder again, for Loira, it was a little bit of over-aggression early on. Wanted to get himself too involved. I think they paid the price. It was a great play from MACKO. I believe it was Teb who pushed him from control hallway and got a freebie onto his back. Ultimately, the round still came down to a 1 versus 1. So definitely some caution needs to be shown by G2. And MACKO will be the ones who are going to bring something a little bit different to the field, I imagine. Change up what happened last time around so that they'll always leave G2 guessing.
Is to defuse a bomb.
Round 3, here we go. We've had one entry kill in both directions. Teb and Dorky with one apiece. Both rounds have seen whoever get the entry take the round as well. So a little bit early for that stat to be too meaningful, but certainly something to watch as we progress and who can come out on top of that entry battle for the time being. Going to be about MACKO trying to get themselves inside of the map. We saw a similar approach last time. It's the same as round 1. They are attacking on to top floor. What I want to see from G2 here, what I'm focusing on is what do they do differently here in terms of holding on to Garage Catwalk. That's a big part for me because they were removed far too easily from it last time around, and they need to make sure that that is not the case this time. Now, I was going to say, we often talk about the Mavericks and how quickly they can get it done. I gave Dora the benefit of the doubt and he stepped up, he got it done.
I want to say we were casting these guys earlier in the stage and you were drawing a very close assessment and Dora passed the test back then. I'm glad
he did. He's passed it again. He's passed it again.
A retest? Unheard of in this age.
Got to keep them skills sharp.
T4 below, and
beautiful.
The freest kill you ever will find. Down goes Akwi, the Hibana gun as well. So none of that really being used here. I didn't actually see how much they managed to get involved inside the jungle to begin with and get things opened up. I imagine not an awful lot. So that'll be now a consideration point they're going to have to worry about if that wall is, of course, reinforced off. If there's players holding it on the G2 side, they have no ability to get it opened up.
No, it's going to be a case of maybe repositioning the Maverick if they want to get some lines of sight to apply pressure to Pillar. That's exactly what's going to happen. Let's see, can Dora pass the test once again? I feel like it's a test every time this is done, but I think he's definitely shown his prowess for today. He can keep his Maverick license.
There we go. We've seen so many teams fall foul trying to push in towards the spot here. Electric quite hard to hold on to. Somewhat for the defenders because flashes come raining over the top from the window. But it's more that once the defenders got themselves dug in. In fact, last week we saw a player set down behind a shield, if you recall. The quick 3K came through from there. It was pretty horrific. I want to say it was Fnatic trying to break it open. Just couldn't quite get their way into the room and get the control they needed. At least here MACKO have that. But now trying to formulate the game plan and actually make something happen. We're down to the last 25 seconds or so. They've got to make a move, Tim. It's going to be a pillar push.
They're just stalling out a little bit here. They've burnt a lot of time, stood in and around, and they've allowed this position for Stomping now to play with the shotgun, play inside the Toxic Babe canisters. G2 just pounce and get kill after kill. It's going to be 3 versus 2. MACKO, Lolo on low health. Ghost does manage to find one and another. Can they hold on here, G2? It's Loira with 4 seconds, but the plant is going down. He might find himself in a retake. He won't. He finds himself dead before that. Ghost is having a big game so far today, and that's another round for MACKO. 2-1.
And just a brilliant execute at that as well. Like, we saw them lining up and we were a little bit concerned about how much time they'd left themselves to make that push through work, and they did it absolutely beautifully. I think the critical one was the smoke off on towards the door, on towards the A site. It meant there was no support coming from the players that weren't on the immediate site, back, like scattered around Pillar itself. And Stomping tries he might with the smoke down, for example. He's being flashed out. Not a lot he can do. It was a really aggressive swing from Dora that got him the kill in the end. And then from there, Ghost, as you say, just popped off with a closing 3K as well. Absolutely beautiful. But MACKO showing there's certainly not any rollovers, and you can see why. They're one of our top teams that have already made it into playoffs, and here, looking to challenge G2 for maybe one of our top 2 spots tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, I think that's something that MACKO have shown consistently throughout this stage. They've continued to surprise people. You know, coming in, obviously, you always look at the new teams that are stepping up from tier 2, or, you know, like in Wild's case, an academy team coming forward. You're always going to look at those new teams coming in against teams like your G2, your Virtus.pro, your Falcons that have been established for a long time, and you're going to think they're going to have a tough time of it in the stage, and there's always, the expectations are going to be limited. And I think that was the case for MACKO, but this is a team that have been grafting and working in T2 for the longest time. They've got this opportunity, and what they've shown is that they understand the gravity of that, and that they're not going to waste that opportunity. Like, they've been putting the work in, it is clear, and they've been getting the rewards on the back of it, and they continue to do so, challenging G2 here on the attack of Nighthaven. It's not an easy thing to do. If they can get themselves 1, maybe 2 more rounds, that's the warning signals start to sound for G2.
Also worth, I think, giving some praise to the org itself at Matcho. They've really persevered in the scene. I believe the owner is like quite a famous tattooist over in Italy. Let's continue building things up, and obviously it's a very much a homegrown org, and it's still here in Tier 1 now, been around for several years, and just good to see the kind of support that's been offered to the players over time as well. Boot camps, you name it. Really love to see that. Strong support from an org as well, making it here at the top level too. Now, see, of course, they bring down G2, one of our most supported. I mean, Doki right now is giving the support to his teammate who was taking pressure across the map. Stompin was the one receiving a little bit of aggro, but the response was there. Doki now getting some pressure from that control window. He's got to be careful as Akwi's taking a few shots on his own challenge through. G2 really making sure that they're putting MACKO through the ringer here and giving nothing away for free.
Yeah, MACKO needing to make sure that they get that top floor control. Just looking at it, you've got Lyra still up there, but is alone now. Doki's actually moved himself down into cargo down in the basement, so G2 very much going for a 3-floor kind of defense here. Doki with those impact nades in hand. If he gets the call that there's a plant going down pillar, he could get there and look to aggress onto it from underneath. But Teb gets an important kill, takes down Lyra. There's nobody on the top floor now, so MACKO can get in there and start a little bit of verticality. They are limited to DMRs and a hard breach charge, but they can still do a bit of something. 3 versus 3 though, as Blaz manages to find Teb.
I think a critical kill to get as well, because that second smoke isn't available from Teb's back pocket. Roll the one out as we saw, but that's all they've got. And now they've got to try and make this work inside with no smoke cover. No one is above, so that's not like a major consideration for them. But in this 3 versus 3 and 60 seconds to play, all going to start building up. There's no flashes left either. They've got a single set of Grimbees. Not a lot for Ideside to play with. Starting to round out there. Stompin almost managed to find his man. C4 ripped and pulled on through. Blaz getting one, but it's down to a 1v2. Doki's got to go big.
Again, it's G2 on that back foot, but we know we spoke about the Clutch Kings coming in. Doki nearly gets himself another in the stage. Dora is going to go for the plant, and as he comes off, Doki is there ready pre-firing and gets himself another clutch to his name. G2 continue to rely on Doki to pull them out of those situations.
Someone pointed this out earlier. Since like CJX's arise, like Doki's been a very different player. I think historically we've seen him be quite up and down. I think it's fair to say, like inconsistent, if we're being like cruel about it and using a strong word. It hasn't been necessarily the strongest, but I think especially since CJX has come along, he's looking great. And of course you can put that down to Stompin joining the team and looking a lot more composed throughout the stage. But it's just good seeing him able to play back to the highs that we know that he's more than capable of. Interesting early timeout here from G2 as well. It's at 2 apiece. They clearly don't feel things are quite going the way they need, even with them just winning that last round. But I imagine that's because, again, the backroom staff, you know, cameraman, Ramalho, you name it, have seen something here they're not happy with and need to have that conversation now. Likely more of a communication issue than anything else.
Yeah, I think they're probably also recognising at 2-2 how important it is for G2 to get the next couple of rounds. Native and Labs is, generally speaking, a defender-sided map, so they need to be making sure that they're getting in here. It's only just, we're talking about 52%, but still, it's about getting any advantage you can find, and they really do want that 4-2 half.
Might not be able to find it if they carry on this way. It's a great play by Doki to bait off the back of the Kiba barrier going down. I think even Dora read into it maybe as being a bait going down that Doki would round off elsewhere rather than pushing so aggressively along with the deployment of the Kiba. Very interesting moment that honestly could have gone horribly wrong if Dora managed to get that plant down and win out the closing 1 versus 1. But instead, all things are square. Timeout, stumble back into it, and we're up onto this top floor once again.
Second clutch that we've had inside of 4 rounds. Lolo 1v2 at the beginning in round 1, and then Doki, of course, 1v2 just then on the back of a 3K as well in the round for Doki. So, as you said, great round from him. Going to be back up to the top floor. It's a site that G2 have lost twice. It's the only site that Matcho have won, of course, having 2 rounds on the board. What can G2 do differently here? They got pretty close last time, I felt. They held on to Catwalk well. They prevented the Aqua push. It was all about coming from jungle and electrical and trying to get towards pillar to get the plant down, and they held Matcho at bay until about the final 20 seconds, and then I don't know, Matcho just managed to brute force their way in, and I think G2 will be happy to kind of roll the dice on a similar defense here, thinking we just need to get them to the same point because, you know, more often than not, we're going to win the gunfights there and close out the round.
It's interesting how the lineup has changed quite drastically actually this time around as well. I say drastically, it's not like catastrophically different. But they're running that Ella same as in the previous round. Not good to lose Doki. That's when your trap operator's gone. I was about to say, they've got the Legion, they've got the Ella playing there. A lot of trap operators to deal with a push in from MACKO later in the round. It's about stalling out up to that point, but losing your life so easily, that's not what I call stalling out around, Tim.
Just such a cheap death as well, you know, to take. And Toki's had a huge moment at the end of the last round and then gets down through shots to the feet from Mav in the wall. They've played a double hard breach ban. They know that it's going to be the Maverick being brought along. Like, you've got to be aware of those angles getting opened up on that breach. And it is a big loss inside the first. Also to mention, 3 out of 4 rounds so far have gone in the direction of the opening kill. So if that trend continues, we would suggest that MACKO have now got a big advantage in this round.
Knock, knock.
Starting to shape up very similar to the last one, though, Tim. If you recall, last time we had 2 players set up inside of Connector, getting ready to push their way through. We had a couple of players set up inside of Electrical, ready to swing and challenge aggressively onto Stomping. It was Dora's pushed through that got the freebie onto Stomping, who otherwise could have stalled out with a couple more smokes. So it's more, again, looking like more of the same, even though Stomping here is holding a much more aggressive angle and being willing to challenge for now. Free drone found underneath, been there for about a minute or so, so they'll at least know what he's been trying to do, where he's been roaming around. Blaz in a very aggressive spot. Oh, but Akwi sees him first. Blaz doesn't full commit. Pays the price, gets counter swung, and another kill goes the way of MACKO. 5v3.
Yep, G2 being punished at every turn inside this round, whether it's a cheap opening death or whether it's Blaz being shut down, trying to get aggressive. Just nothing's really working at the minute. Stomping, I like that swing. As the flashbang comes in, he knows he's likely to be peaked. He takes the challenge before its effects are felt. Doesn't get the kill, but Lyra does manage to find a double, looking for a third as well. Predicts the movement will come across the doorway, but we find ourselves now 2 versus 2. Low health across the board. There's only Stomping, who has all his hit points in place.
They need to find Kilson. I don't think they can afford to go into a 1 versus 2 as we step into a clutch, but shotgun posted up, waiting for the swing. It's Stomping to get one, Lyra the other. And G2 recover what, honestly, when they were in a 3 versus 5, should have been a lost round. That, for me, is the second round now. We saw it from Doki earlier on. Second round now, where they've had to rely on these hero plays, these clutch moments from individuals to get them over the line. It's all good having that in the locker, but this ain't the dominant G2 that we've seen over the last few weeks.
No, not as much so. They certainly seem, you know, a little bit less sure of themselves in this one. They know that they're in a game. You know, MACKO are playing it very well, but Doki frustrated with himself there. Not too much of a surprise. As I said, it was a little bit of a cheap one to give away, but Lyra played brilliantly here. We saw this previously, if you remember. Lyra got pushed from both sides when he was the Azami back in round 1, and he just died like immediately. It was really well done by MACKO, but this time Lyra was ready for it, and that's the thing with players like G2 have. You can't always try the same thing more than once because they're not going to get fooled twice, and Lyra was definitely ready and punished them with that one. So well played from him. G2, they get it over the line despite losing that opening entry battle. And they go 3-2, and the hunt for that 4-2 defensive half is still very much alive.
4-2 will feel like, again, a bit of a saving grace. I look back at the rounds that G2 have won, all 3 of them. It's come from a 3K for an individual. Lyra in round 2, Doki in round 4, Lyra in round 5. The numbers just keep on building up for these individuals that are really putting on a bit of a show for us. Saying that, there's only really been one round where we haven't had a multi-kill, and that was round 1, and even that came with a low 1v2, so it's been bonkers. But here we go. They're trying to make a quick one of this, but they want to see this half over and done with. They've tried their best to step forward, but they've just been gatted down as soon as they've stepped forward. They've lost 2 of their players. Diffuser is down. Not ideal for MACKO, who wanted this one done inside 30 seconds.
No, I think they've just learnt a lesson there about why you have to clear above. Stomping will be taken down now, but he got the important kill. He got the one they needed, and that was the blitz going into sight to try and make life difficult. Lolo is going to find Lyra, but 2 versus 3. They've got a Glass, they've got a Dorkabis, so they've got some pretty good utility on side for them, but we've got 2 minutes left to go, and G2, they can stay inside, they can hold their angles, and they can just wait for their opportunities, and they will come because MACKO are going to have to push forward.
It just makes me nervous that, again, G2 are the ones who are in a 5 versus 3. We've seen it flip the other way now, where they're the ones bleeding out more players than what MACKO are. Yes, it's G2 at a disadvantage, and MACKO have got a lot of stuff to figure out here. Got a couple of drones they can still work with. They've got a bit of utility, a couple of flashes, otherwise not a whole lot to go off of. Blaz has still got all 3 smokes. We've got C4s, we've got impacts. G2 are definitely the ones who are stacked up on what's in their back pocket right now and, of course, have the advantage. But maybe this call makes a little bit of difference for them when it comes out. Never know. All it takes is a couple of headshots and this round is transformed.
Going to grab the cameras there, so they've got the intel, or at least what's left of it after they've no doubt taken a bunch of default cameras away themselves. But very insistent on using the vert here. Almost a minute spent just purely working those vertical angles with the door coming from above, and they haven't found anything. There's no damage been done to G2. G2 are too smart for this. They're just going to keep themselves well out of sight as much as they can. They're going to give absolutely nothing away. Blaz manages to find Lolo above. It's all up to the glass of MACKO. He's inside of sight. Cut down by Doki. Nice and simple mop up there from G2 to finish the round for the half 4-2. I feel like that score isn't really fully reflective of what we've seen. It's been a lot closer, really, and Matcho could come away feeling like they could have had 3 or 4 rounds there, but ultimately, G2 showing a bit of class, getting it done, and getting themselves the advantage before moving on to the attack.
That feels like the story of so many games throughout this stage. Even back at Reload, a similar story where it's like, we know that team won, but it really feels like 3 or 4 rounds were lost by the other side. In a way, you kind of describe it as like they lost to themselves in a way, or one side didn't win, the other side lost. In this game, I still feel like G2 has done enough in a few critical rounds. More, when I say G2, I mean individual players that have managed to make quite a big impact there. As I mentioned, 3 multi-kills is what gave them their 3 rounds throughout it. That one there was much more of a team effort, but it was shutting down the rush from Matchko's side, as I'm sure we'll see in the replay here. Try the very best, but Doki gets one, Stomping gets the other. It's just a little bit too easy to completely close things down there. It really had to be in there a little bit quicker. Nice shot from MACKO to get that reverse onto the Warden, but it was too little, too late.
We move on to the defensive half. Teb's just trying to hide that clash away for the time being. Lead his teammates on point, taking down those runs. We just see Lolo doing exactly that at the top of Aqua Stairs, just really wanting to prevent any of that 6th pick coming in for the attackers, being able to bring utility specifically to deal with the clash. As it is, they've already got the Nomad on side. It depends. They kind of need to rely on finding the clash before they've deployed the air jabs, of course. Can be a great way of dealing with the clash. They've also switched out. I think they might have seen the clash, given that Doki's switched onto the Flores as well. Of course, those Rotero drones, great for getting in there and clearing the shield out once it's planted. So I don't think Matchko's strategy's quite paid off for them.
Yeah, I don't know how much Teb really fancies playing the Fett Dance with Death. Remember when the Clash first had the rework and Fett was just like, hey, you can run out and plant it down, throw a nade, you pick it back up, you move it, you put it back down again. It's horrible when you start playing that dual game with it. Admittedly, we've seen teams try and do that a little bit today, like play quite aggressively with the shield. I think back to Fnatic defending on the basement of Consulate earlier. A 2v1 that was formed inside of Yellow, and eventually they both die and trying to play a little bit too clever. Things happen. So I don't think you'll see us going trying to be too bonkers with it, but as you say, G2 have got the tools to help deal with it if it becomes a problem.
Just trying to judge which wall we'd seen opened up. I think it was the connector wall that Lyra had gone, Blaz had gone straight for on the Thermite. IT wall still close to the time being. The mirror window will be smashed out. But G2 not really inside of the building in any significant way yet. They've got Alam out underneath in cafeteria around kitchen, just looking to open up and cause a menace from below with some of those ash chargers, no doubt. Clear out a bit of utility as well. And then can, of course, move up through meeting to join them in the push towards electrical.
That's interesting how MACKO have gone. Yeah, big one. Oh, juicy.
Ton of utility.
I remember seeing one of those go off.
No, Lyra, you can't do that. It started
so well. I still think back to a time when Flores drone went off on. It was near the bookcase where you typically chuck a bulletproof camera on Chalet, and it went down where there was the Rotero on the right, there was a shield in the middle, and just off towards its left there was an ADS. It killed the ADS, but not the shield, and I was like, what? At least that one there cleared absolutely everything out. Now G2 are down 2 players. We've been here before though, Tim. We've seen these rounds spun on their head, so I don't want to count them out just yet. However, they are on the attacking side. It is a bit of a taller ask.
Yeah, and the problem that they've got, it's not just about the fact that it's 5 versus 3, it's one of those 5 is Clash, and now Teb has the freedom to play that shield a lot more. He doesn't necessarily need to be a gun, because even if you take him out of the equation, it's still 4 versus 3 in favour of Matcho, so he can really now play that aggravating role of just being a presence, just being feeding intel in, but Blaz has just changed the trajectory, manages to get 2, taking down Ghost and Akwi, might have an opportunity to pick Stomping up as well. 28 seconds left to go, so G2, they do need to get moving, but it just became at least more possible.
But they are against the Clash, and that's where I get a little bit nervous for them at this point. Tim, and that shield is still standing, as we can see here on the pillar. This is actually a really smart place for it as well. They won't be able to easily get in, but no! Alamar stepped round. Is it another moment for G2 to win on the gunfights and get around back online? No, it's not. Unfortunately, one went down, and Stomping was stuck in a 1 versus 2. They managed to hold on, but MACKO should really not have bled out 3 players there.
No, it was closer than it probably should have been, but MACKO won't mind that. At the end of the day, all that they're bothered about is that score on the scoreboard. They were pretty solid, to be fair. After the Clash went down, you know, they were defending from the opposite side, and they were looking pretty comfortable as those final... I think the problem for G2 was they'd taken too much time to deal with everything. Because of the loss of those 2 players, they then had to kind of adjust and get themselves into sight, and they were just rushing in those last 10 seconds to try and find the fights, try and go for the kills. The call had been made, and it was just a little bit tough for them. And you see that because they get cut down so easily, they're just forcing themselves into positions to try and take fights into angles that are already being held, already being watched. So MACKO get themselves 1 back. They're back within 1. It's 3-4 on the scoreboard. G2, they're going to be looking, of course, to get an attack as soon as possible. It's down onto the basement, which, as I said earlier, is the most attacker-favoured site in the map. So this is G2's opportunity.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Gonna work your way through the entire map. First, spoke about G2 playing out on the roam earlier on. Well, surprise, nobody. That MACKO are the kind of team that do like to get out around the map and stay busy. We've got both Dora and Teb playing up on the second floor. Akwi and Ghost looking to give a little bit of support on the first. And then Lolo's the one who's holding down the fort in... I can't believe I've just said that. Holding down the fort. I feel sick. Holding the fort in basement.
Gonna have the
respect the Queen's English.
Just gonna have the thermite dancing about having a look now. We spoke earlier about the way that you can work around those mute jammers because it's a spherical coverage on the back of the wall. So if you go towards the top corners, there's obviously coverage missing. But I don't think that is the case here. I think that Teb has actually applied a good few of those mute jammers along the back of that wall so that he's got that complete coverage. I think if you use 3 across there, you'll get coverage whereby they're unable to get the thermite charge in any position where it's going to open it up. We see the small wall taken out, so that means they can at least breach into Animus. They need to now deal with that double wall.
I'll come back to a stat that I shared on the SAL broadcast on the weekend. Raur as an operator has the lowest win rate of any operator in the game right now. Attack or defense, no matter what other name you want to think of, Nope has the lowest attacking win rate. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that quite new to the pool, a lot of Plofsy teams haven't really had the chance to invest in playing and just yet figure out the optimal strats for her. We've seen some good use cases, admittedly, and the occasional cool round does come out, but overwhelmingly not been the great. A cheeky little zap from Alamar. Of course Alamar would do that. Of course he would. Still, here comes that Raur now, aiming in towards the door, just trying to almost like quick peek on towards the door here to make sure it gets locked up. And here we go. Laura's found Ghost, Blaz into a second. G2 making it work. A combo of Raur, smokes, you name it. They're getting away with it. The C4, I think, was trying to come out there, but no, he sticks to the wall. I thought it might be an observer bug for a second, but no, he absolutely duffed it at the time he couldn't afford to. G2 definitely going to out with that Raur in right now, as Teb has got it all to do, and he can't do it against 5 Tim. It's a flawless round by G2.
Can we talk about Doki on the Monty and planting?
If you have 2 things you'd ever seen.
Like, what's going on there? I just see them onto like rushing into sight and getting the... I'm like, hang on, that's Doki. And he's getting... I mean, you know, we've seen him play on the shields occasionally, but getting the diffuser down as well, that's not really his vibe usually. But great round from G2. They worked that really, really well. Got a couple of kills, showed why that basement site is generally attacker favoured on Nighthaven. It was, you know, good stuff from them, just flooded on in as soon as the opportunity was there. They dealt with the utility, the mute jammers on the back of the walls, got them dealt with no real problem, got the walls open, got all the access that they needed, cleared MACKO from those key spots, and they've actually forced them away. They've decided they're not going to try that again, so it's going to be storage this time. So what do we see from G2 here on the attack? Personally, I quite like the keep it simple, get IT wall open, get double wall open again down into basement. So control your basement room, control your IT room, and plant on the pillar. Keep it nice and simple.
remaining.
And we're going to face up against the Clash this time around, which is a bit of a bonus.
To locate a bomb and defuse it.
Again, I love although the position was great, getting domed by Alamau as he steps in towards IT door, I was just like, oh, so unfortunate. Because that position is really smart. Often you have that rush towards pillar, of course, to try and get the plant down. If a Clash is slowing you and the whole walk across, whoever it is that's playing the close range shotgun on towards electric door can normally spin around and assist you in that moment, deal with the player that's pushing in, or of course the Clash can just quick peek around the shield herself and get the kill. Either way, it's a really good way of stopping what is a very, very common plant on this site itself. That's not available in this round though, instead leaning in towards some of those trap operators that we spoke about before, as well as the C4s that we've seen become quite a staple. Akwi, not quite sure what the game plan was there, my friend, but Doki, he gets himself the entry.
I think Akwi was a little bit of a victim to siege time in there. He went out of the window just as Doki was vaulting over. So he wouldn't normally have had that line of sight onto the window, but took full advantage of the gift that he was offered. Never want to deny it. We've got that IT wall open. That's the first step that I was talking about. They are going to have to play through the two players that are upstairs. Arguably, you can just kind of leave them in the cold. So long as you can keep them out of IT, it's sufficient, because they can't do anything about a plant from this position. But I think initially, at least, G2 will definitely be looking for the kill onto the Azami of Ghost.
Sure, but I'm more looking towards Doki's Candelas. The first one is now rung out. Of course, you might be looking at this and saying, well, this is upstairs, so why are we using Calendelas up here? Isn't always for the execute, often used actually for clearing out rooms. It forces people back. This is what I mean, MACKO, Ghost even, might find himself blashed out, but no. But now, okay, a drone behind, they know exactly where he is, gets through the next Candela. It's enough for one blast to go through. The challenge is coming. Get at least one off the back of a C4 on towards Doki, but no kills for Ghost himself. Playing on the upstairs, G2 have got the vertical control they need and have got the man advantage 4v3.
Yeah, that's big for them now. They can start thinking towards the execute. Dora has a little bit of a look at maybe getting up Aqua stairs and having a retake, but sees the drone on the way up, takes it out, but heads straight back down because he knows the trouble that would be coming his way had he continued. So we've got two of them inside a lounge. So that means with only 3 left on the board for MACKO, there has to be space for G2. If 2 of them are playing back in lounge, there has to be room to think about getting this diffuser down. G2 just need to find where it is. Where is the gap? Loira manages to find Dora. 2 versus 4 now with Teb down in basement, playing for that Nitro denial. If G2 realise that, they could go straight in here and think about putting it down.
They could, and they're going to try and do just that. Oh, Evil Eye sees a little bit of everything. Readjust for the plant spot, don't blame them at all. Fearful of Teb C4 potentially coming in from below. It's in hand, and they found the man as well. 10 seconds left, and they might run out of time here, Tim. Going to have to reallocate or relocate, sorry, try and get the plant down, but look at this. It's Lolo off to the side. Nothing they can do to stop him coming in here. Going to have to hold down F, and they do just that. Alamau might get a chance to finish it, but can he come up and win the gunfight? No, he cannot. Lolo into a 3K. And MACKO keep the game alive.
I think G2 have just failed to deal with that player in basement. It's come back to bite them. I agree with going in for the plant, but you got to get up on a table. You got to get up on something. You got to prevent that possibility of the Nitro hitting you from below. And, in all honesty, you got to deal with it earlier in the round. I said at the beginning, you get IT wall open, you get double wall open down into basement, prevent them from being able to play down there. Push in, find them if they are playing. Where is Teb? Where is the Valk? We need to go in and make sure we've got a location. Get in there as a pair. Put them in a lose-lose situation, get the kill and deal with it. And they hadn't done that, G2, and they've paid the price.
Sorry, Tim, I was having a little sneeze there. You literally finished talking as I was sneezing. I was like, no, you've chosen the worst time. Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Yes,
well, bless you.
Thank you very much. Bless me indeed. And MACKO take us into attack timeout. understandably. Chance to flip things around here. They know that, yes, you come off the back of a round win. It required Lolo going absolutely nuclear, as, by the way, I believe every single round except 3 have featured a 3K or better from different players throughout this game. Pretty much all unique as well. To be fair, Laura's the only one who's doubled up there, but we've had Ghost, we've had Doki, we've had Blaz, we've had Lolo. Everyone's getting involved, and a couple of 1v2s along the journey as well. Definitely making it for a very entertaining game in terms of player capability. Probably areas where both teams would think that they can tighten things up as a team, though.
Great play from Lolo. Lolo, to be honest, throughout the round, had a great round, but that nitro from Teb, I don't know, you know, maybe a bit of intel coming in. They'd already taken out one Vault camp, but I don't know if there was another one watching the spot or whether it was a sound call, but he just got that nitro absolutely spot on. Great stuff from Teb, and we've seen again for MACKO so many important moments from him. Going to find themselves back up on the top floor then, where they have already...
I feel like I'm in like a repeated loop here. I can't get out of top floor.
It's just
I think it's also the camera pan, because I'm pretty sure our observers have done a similar sort of pan from electric across B-bomb site out towards A every single time. So it just feels like I'm living in the same loop.
Secure! I've seen this before.
It literally, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Okay, onwards we step. Into round 10 we go. The G2 move us to match point, or the MACKO guarantee that we see all 12 rounds of regulation. I thought for a moment we might see G2 getting away with the win there, going up to 6-3, and then we're like, okay, at least there's finally a sane result today. But this one, taking it down to the wire. I think we see all 12 at some point, truthfully, Tim.
Mine ready to go.
I think that's very, very possible. I think that's very, very possible. This round is going to define it for me. Round 10, if G2 can get the win here, I think they close it out with 2 opportunities. They've been clinical so far on the whole in stage 1, and I think they will continue that. So MACKO, they really need to dig deep and make sure that they're getting this one locked down. They did win this site back in round 7. It was the basement they were unable to hold on to in round 8. So let's see if they can just do the same job again.
Oh, something appears there, Laura, but instead will settle for taking out the mirror window. Got a nice long hole now opened up through the entirety of site at head level, which can make things slightly inviting for the side of G2 to swing in towards this one, especially when you've got the Alamo and the Monty being able to feed that information on who is where inside the site itself. Got Lolo could be a bit of a problem child here for them if they're not too careful as well. Of course, it being barricade off now means he's going to make himself known. That's a little bit unfortunate. But, I mean, that's an interesting spread. Okay, that happened. The sneaker over the back, and I was going to say Blaz. He's got to sprint for his life, but even that's not enough. Dora gets that one. Doki's back, and this trading nature feels so common throughout this game.
It really does. You've got to do it, though. You've got to have those answers. You've got to be able to respond. Otherwise, you just find yourself on the wrong end of being washed over by a tide of aggression. 4 versus 4 then, as G2 have got themselves a little bit established, I guess. They've gone in and taken some control of IT, started at least getting on into the map, but not too much pressure mounting into site itself yet. Just still working from below to try and clear out some of that utility. That was what was pausing the effort of G2 to move forward. We can see now they get a little bit more aggressive, stomping, just seeing the back end of that man in behind pillar, and he manages to find Aqui, who probably overextends there, gets punished, and G2 now have an advantage.
It's a nice pre-fire from Lolo. Anticipated the push coming through from Laura perfectly. Didn't quite manage to find the head. Now Laura has turned his attention skyward with that skeleton key. I think that triggers for Lolo to realise, okay, I can't stand here anymore. I've got to go and pressure him or pull back in towards site. G2 yet again have this numbers advantage, Tim. Surely they don't let this one go. It's another 4v2. Make it a 4v1. They should be able to step up. Yes, they do. Up to match point they go with a 2-round advantage over MACKO.
That's really big there. I said coming into that one, I feel if G2 get that round, it's a primary site choice for MACKO as well, one that they've already won. I feel like G2 now have it in the tank to get this one won. Whether they do it immediately or whether they use both rounds, time will tell. MACKO have got a real job to fight their way back to overtime, and it does in some ways feel a little bit harsh. MACKO have played really good siege. They have tested G2 in many, many rounds, and there are a good few that could have gone the other way. So MACKO right now need to find something in themselves, need to dig deep, and get those 2 rounds in a row. They're going to go back up to top floor again, which is a bold move considering they've just lost this site. And, you know, it wasn't too difficult for G2 that time.
They're doing it again. The observers are doing it on purpose, I swear.
They are now that you've mentioned it, observe.
It just gets me every time. All right. The site that we seemingly cannot leave. How many times have we played it so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
10 seconds left.
Out of 11 rounds. That is why it
I
feels
think
like there is ridiculous deja vu.
6 rounds, because round 8 was basement, but our stats are saying otherwise.
Attackers must locate and defuse the bomb.
So 6 times, but that's still a lot.
It's enough. It's more than half.
It's a lot.
There we go. Let's see then if Matcho can stem the tide, because G2, that momentum, the wind is in their sails. And it's certainly not slowing down anytime soon. A big boon as Stomping starts out with a kill onto Ghost. Don't need the Jaeger. Gadgetry is down. You've lost only the gun. No key gadgetry being lost in the process. But it's still a gun you do not want to be without.
Ghost had a really good game on the whole. Been quiet a little bit for the last couple of rounds, but has had, you know, a couple of big moments where he's got a couple of kills. He got a 3K back in round 3 as well, and it's, you know, really powered them through a couple of rounds. So definitely a big loss there. 5 versus 4, 2 minutes 10. Plenty of time for G2 to just wear away at this defense. They need to have a plan in place to deal with the shield that they're going to be coming up against. We've seen how impactful that shield can be, and interestingly, we've actually got, and I don't know that I've ever seen this myself so far yet. Maybe I have at some point, but we've got Striker versus Sentry as well.
It's a good point, actually. We've seen them.
I don't recall seeing them on both sides of the table.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure it's happened.
I'm going to go and find out in the data later if it's ever happened before. You've got me curious now. I'll find out later. For now, oh my God! Massive 2K C4 coming out. Could have been a third Stomping, but he was a bit too close to the wall. That might have spun things around. Actually, no, Stomping taking matters into his own hands. Makes it a third for himself. He can finish off the down player. It's okay, my man. You can shoot him. He will die, I promise. He's so scared about support coming, and it's the right idea. Almost using him as bait at this point. But you can shoot the foot, mate. That's the one. 3K for himself in the round. And just when it looked like Akwi might have saved it for the side of Matcho, Stomping says no.
King Stomping might just have pushed them over the line there. It was a little bit of a mistake from G2 stacking up on that electrical window, and Akwi really did punish them, but 2 versus 3 now. MACKO find themselves backs to the wall and holding on. They know that he's there. Stomping with another. It's a quad kill. Surely not. Surely he can't get the ace, can he?
He's just farming at this point, Tim. No, he cannot. Alamo is IGL going to deny the ace away to close out the game. But that 4K is enough to sign it and seal it as G2 take all 3 points and go top of the table.